In a fierce struggle, Greyson and his family faced the deadly threat of Remington. What is Remington's true plan when he transforms into his human form at the last moment? And how will Celeste use the silver bullet amidst this chaos? Can she successfully protect those she loves? Join our pack. Subscribe to start your adventure. Chapter 3330 for Greyson. What was going on? Temporarily, I lost consciousness with the lack of oxygen flowing through my brain. Aimlessly, I looked at the sky and noticed that there were no clouds. I looked at the sun and cringed at the harsh light on my pupils. My eyes blinked once, 2 times. Yet thin fingers wrung my throat with unimaginable force, my sight alternate from dark to light. Get off him, you sadist. The pressure around my throat slid away, and as soon as it did, my lungs gasped for air like it depended on it. I heard pounding in my ears, rhythmically listening to the beat of my heart. Gran. What are you doing here? I heard Celeste shout. Gran. That was one person I hoped to never be on the receiving end of her vicious personality. I lifted my head up and saw the unmistakable woman grab Remington by the ankle of his foot across the dirt. On the back of his chest was evidence of a gunshot wound. Dad moved aside as if Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt herself, had rained down from her throne to initiate the punishment herself. Remington's face expressed emotions of surprise and annoyance. Then when he was dragged across for another 3 feet before letting out a roar of rage. You will pay for this, old woman. He flailed every time he scrapped across the dirt. As I came to, I felt tossed-struck by Gran's fearlessness. Who can a human woman stand up to an old wolf like Remington? She spat at him. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I don't waste good money on dirty cheap things like you. All who were watching the incredible scene unfold gasped in unison when Gran produced her cane and rammed it like a sword over Remington's stomach. Of course it didn't go through him, but the force was powerful enough to make him gag well. Trent's mouth gaped. A growl emanated from deep within Remington. You, shut up. Gran hit him across the face with her cane this time. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Hit dirty mouth. Shut. Think you can hit my family while I'm still alive? I don't think so. Both ends of his face were red and blue by the time she finished that sentence. It took 5 seconds to lift her foot and 1 to stomp it down his nuts. Remington screamed so loudly by the end of it his voice gave way and cracked. I'm sending you to an early grave. You'll be bang. Remington rocked back and fell like a statue. His thigh began to bleed. What the? The bullet came out of nowhere. Before you fire, you got to let me know. Gran shouted at no one in particular. If I had let you know, I would have given away my location. I groaned as I tried to get back on my feet. I rubbed my neck trying to soothe the soreness more. Celeste and Trent said at the same time. Celeste's mother appeared from the shadows with a pistol aiming high. It isn't safe for you to be here, Vincent said. Celeste's mom glared at him. Same goes for you, kid. Your mother turned pale as a sheet when she saw the condition of your brother. Vincent visibly gulped. And you? She narrowed her eyes at me. Cover yourself up. Do you have any morals? Running around naked in front of my daughter. You pig. As if Celeste just noticed her face reddened and covered her eyes with the palm of her hands. Boy, I think you're fine. Gran looked at me and winked. Oh God. I cringed and forced myself to transform back to my wolf. My body snapped painfully than the usual due to my injuries. Dad walks near me and allows me to lean onto his body. Mom, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here, it's dangerous. Celeste asked. Her mother glared at her. You honestly think I would stay home when 2 of my children are running around with maniacs? She says, clutching her gun tighter. She thinks we're crazy. Has she even looked in a mirror? I think she's the most over-hysterical person I've come to know. I can't believe you have that. Celeste pointed at the gun her mother was holding. Gran chuckled. Don't you kids know? Your mother is a dead shot. She has impeccable aim. Taught from the very best. Mom, what else have you been keeping from us? Trent said. Remington started moving and Ren noticed she raised her cane and slammed it down again. However, this time Remington was not unprepared. He caught Gran's cane and grasped it. He held on so tight his knuckles whitened. I heard a snap, then suddenly the cane broke in half. Surprised, Gran staggered back. I'm done playing, he mumbled. How is he still able to get up after the shots? Celeste's mother pulled the trigger again, but nothing came out. It was empty. Dad jumped and tried to pin Remington down again, but was slammed back with one full swing. I'm not going to waste my time anymore, Remington mumbled. Take in your last breath because it will be your last. Trent growled, shifted into his wolf and stood defensively between his mother and sister. Vincent got up and stood defensively next to Gran. Now we had 3 people to look after. Great. Oh my God. Tracy gasped as she saw her son shift for the first time. Her face was contorted in horror. If your father wasn't dead, I would have killed him for keeping this secret from me. I'm not standing here and watching. Gran complained at Vincent, who wasn't letting her move a foot closer. She planted her palm on his face. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. But he didn't. Thank goodness. I hate you. Remington pointed a finger at Tracy. The feeling's mutual. Tracy responded. That's good to hear. He leapt towards the direction of Celeste's mother. Mom, get out of the way. Celeste yelled. Trent remained infant of his mother, both directly in Remington's line of fire. I knew that both of them would get badly hurt if Remington were to lay a single hand. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I moved as fast as I could and placed myself between them. Celeste's mom gasped as my body completely shadowed hers, stopping the man from pulverizing her and her son. Using my strength, I dug my claws into Remington's front and catapulted him to the right away from Celeste and her family. Hit him hard, branch-eared as if watching a tournament. This is serious. Tracy yelled at her. I'm just encouraging him. Gran retorted. Not helping. Tracy said, and I couldn't agree with her more. Remington slowly got to his feet. Hit me again. I dare you. I charged at him. He moved to his left and elbowed me between my shoulder blades. This was the second time I felt my lungs hurt. I grunted at the force but remained conscious. My feet pondered on the dirt as I repeatedly shifted my weight to dodge each of his blows. I can't keep up with them, I heard Celeste say. They are moving so fast. When Remington bent backward to avoid my claws, Dad took that moment to jump and slam over him. His head bounced as it hit the ground. At first I thought we had him. It takes 2 alphas to fight me. How amusing. He still had the nerve to taunt us. He saw an opening. His eyes stared toward Celeste. No, he was going after her again. Trent was in front of her, so Remington had to get past him first. But it won't be easy for him with Trent's lack of training. It was then that Remington shifted into his wolf. It took only half a second and he was in complete wolf form. He was faster in this form. I noticed. Trent jumped to attack him but was easily tossed aside like a rag doll. He held in pain when he slammed into a bush. Tent. Tracy screamed. She saw that Remington was heading towards Celeste and moved next to her. How dare you touch my children? Remington choked as if laughing. I ran after him. I have to protect her. Vincent head butted into his side. Remington was not fazed at all. He growled and pummeled Vincent to the ground unconscious. His teeth was merely inches from his throat. Gran did the craziest thing and threw a rock at the old wolf. Over here, you giant mutt. Remington swung his giant head at her but didn't bother. His main goal was to get to Celeste, because knowing me, he knew that hurting her was my biggest weakness. Tracy fumbled with her gun. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a spare bullet. It was silver. Remington caught sight of it and reacted immediately to bit her arm. He missed, however, and bumped his muzzle into Tracy's wrist. The silver bullet dropped from her grasp and rolled to the ground. Celeste screamed when Remington's giant wolf uncovered her mother's body. She kicked him, trying desperately to remove his crushing weight off her. Tracy started yelling in agony. I bit into his tail and sank him with all my might. He moved only a few feet, but it was enough to get him off her. Mom, are you okay? Celeste cried. Grant tried to run to her daughter's side, but she wasn't as fast as she hoped and nearly tripped. Dad circled behind Remington. I barked at him to not move so close. Remington had many tricks up his sleeve. We had to be careful. Remington kicked his back feet and rolled to standing position. He bared his teeth at me and I returned the favor. We were eye to eye now. His face was traced with dry blood. There were more scars on the surface of his skin. In fact, his whole body was full of scars. He literally looked like a rabid animal. He took a few steps towards me and I back away. Dad moved forward, and when he did, Remington looked over his shoulder to him. I took that chance to run, staring at him. I sunk my teeth into his face. It didn't taste that great. My back legs stepped on top of his stomach and we spiraled downhill. I don't know how we got so far, but we were downgrading. We bounced against trees like ping-pong balls. When we stopped moving, we were next to a small stream. Water from that stream was flowing left and particles were flying onto my farm, making us slightly wet. Remington thrashed his head, making me wobble. But I still had my jaws tightly situated into his skull. His back leg punched me on the side of my rib. I heard thrashing by the trees and thought it was someone from my group. Then out of nowhere, a human hunting group consisting of 3 people were staring at us in awe. Wolves, one of them yelled. This just couldn't get any worse. Celeste, wolves. The man with the fishing hat exclaimed. I don't recall ever seeing them in town before, but it was clear what they were here for. Their rifles strapped to their shoulders, but at least none of them had it pointed at Greyson. Oh, good golly. Then wolves. The shortest of the 3 whistled. Wolves. The other man agreed with a nod. He had a thick green wool jacket on and blue jeans. Either they were so shocked and had a loss of words, or they just couldn't express their thoughts enough. The 3 weird-looking men just stood there as Greyson and Remington were on each other like battling beasts, snarling and ripping each other apart. Do you 3 know other words beside wolves? You sound like idiots. Gran grumbled while struggling to crawl down the steep hill. Diana. 2 of the men said in unison. They knew Gran. The man with the fishing hat clasped the nose of his rifle and I stiffened. Was he going to use it? Don't you dare point that gun at me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I will tell your mama about you driving your father's truck into my mailbox last June and you'll be sorry. Gran pointed her finger at him. It was an accident and I fixed it. The crone man winned. Meanwhile, Greyson was at an advantage as he had Remington slammed against a tree. The 3 men looked at the large beasts and quivered at the strength. What are you doing in these dark parts of the woods? Diana, Ricky asked. What do you think? Was Gran's sassy remark. I went to find my missing granddaughter. She gestured to Mayho. One of them said, she doesn't look lost. The plaid-eyed guy mumbled. Gran rolled her eyes. Well, it looks like I find her, she said with sarcasm. But along the way we got stuck in the middle of this. She motions to two wolves fighting to the death. At that moment, then it appears in his wolf form and joins the mass of wrestling fur. Want us to shoot them? Ricky eagerly takes out his gun. No, I shriek. Don't worry, girl. We have a hunting permit. He assures me, but that isn't what I'm concerned over. I told you not to point that gun. To my aching extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Grant scolds him. He said not at you. He complains. Same thing. Gran retorts. To my relief, he lowers his gun. These animals are on my property and you aren't allowed to hunt on my property without me knowing. I can fine you boys for this. The men's eyes widened more than they had when they saw Greyson and Remington. Something told me Gran was lying, but these guys were stupid enough to believe her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Looks like Vincent was conscious again, naked like the first day he was born. That's my new gardener. He's a nudist. Don't mind him. Go home, Gran told them. As crazy as this town is, the men nodded and believed her without protest. Vincent heard and looked at her in disbelief. He then remembered his state of undress and ran back into the bush. That was one image I hoped to erase from my head. Isn't that Debbie's boy? I swear I hear a curse coming from the bush, but it must have been my imagination. Gran frowned at them and waved her hands. You boys better be running along before I call the sheriff for your trespassing. Yes, ma'am. They said, turning around. It was then that Remington used his giant head to toss Greyson off his feet. The three men grew engrossed with the scene and stopped moving. I told you to leave. Gran ordered. But what are you going to do with these wolves? We can't leave you with these wild animals. Yes, you can. I put one foot in front of the other and stop when you reach the side of the road. Simple. Bennett slammed Remington on his side, removing him off of Greyson. We can each take a shot of these wolves. If you're concerned over the pelt price, you can have it. We just ask that you tell the town we shot them. We haven't had a decent shot in months. We've only shot poultry, but they don't turn us much. No, you will not shoot them. I screamed angrily. I will not allow you to hurt them. Are you vegetarian? Go. The short one asks, what does that have to do with anything? Enough from you three. Get out of my property, or I'll make you garden my property for a year. Gran places her hands on her hips. The three stare at the direction that Vincent disappeared to and Dorothy gulp. We're leaving. Ricky says, but let us escort you back home. It's a gentleman-like thing to do. That's what my mama says. Oh, for the love of. We're fine. No, you ain't. The short one says. I recall you being missing. We saw your face all over town. Sheriff Flea put them up himself. The whole town's been looking for you. I recall what was said to me before. The pack that lives in town make it appear as though the officials are working hard to find the missing girls, but they don't actually try because they know where exactly they're being held. As the years pass and the girl isn't found, the humans give up the search. Leo must have put those signs up himself. I can picture him smirking as he did it, knowing where I was the whole time. You'd have been missing for months. We found you, the plaid one says all excitedly. Now wait a minute. Weston, Grant steps in between. I found my granddaughter. So no one is the hero here except me, but you got lost. You got stuck in the middle of this dog pile with your bear but harder, and we found you. The Weston fellow continues to argue. That's right, we saved you. Ricky West at what they just concluded. Remington snarls and charges one more at Greyson. I was already starting to get tired of this fight because of the lack of progress. Greyson moves away, but Remington continues at his bulldozing pace. His eyes narrow until late we notice him charging straight at me. Celeste, move out of the way. Vincent yells the same time Greyson barks and runs to save me. One of the men next to me, I think Weston, starts screaming and fumbling with his fun. Ricky was the first to take position, but when he aims and triggers the rifle it doesn't go off. He forgot to turn off the safety. Oh shit, he exclaims. You useless terpes, Grant says. Remington's lips turn up as he smiles. Was it even possible for a wolf to smile? Well, apparently it was possible. It was a knee-jerk reaction when I reached into my pocket and dug out the silver bullet that I had picked up from the floor when Mom dropped it. Having no gun, I didn't know what to do with it. If you're going to shoot something, get that brown one, I yelled to the three men. Greyson and his father were black wolves and Remington was a brown wolf with patches of greying fur. Their reaction time was rather slow because all their guns like their lives depended on it. I moved just in time. Remington almost took a chunk of my arm off. Dear God, that dog is vicious. Ricky exclaimed. I have never seen one that huge before. To my agent extraordinaire, Myline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That's what he said. Gran muttered under her breath. Give me that. She grabbed his rifle. Gran, do you know how to use that thing? I lived here since my mother pooped me out. Kids here are taught to hunt in order to get food on the table. I think I can use this contraption. Diana, that's not safe for. You can be an old lady and the next time you blink there will be a hole through you. Ricky stepped back. Let's get your mother's gun. You can't use that silver on this. It won't work. Your wolf's mother said that the only way to kill a werewolf like that behemoth is with that type of bullet. It was weird that she called Greyson my wolf, but she was right about the bullet. It would only work with the gun my mom brought with her. I want you to run, Celeste. Run as fast as your little legs can handle. Head over your back. I nodded and started running towards the direction of my mom. Hopefully she still had the gun with her. Behind me I hear Gran shouting orders at the three men to cover her as her shield. The more I ran, the more I realized how unfit I was. The surface of the forest wasn't smooth and leveled. I had to hike up a few steeps to reach the clearing where Mom and Trent were. I've got your back too. I hear Vincent coming up behind me. When I turn my head he shifts at the exact moment and his wolf shadows behind me. The three guys were too preoccupied with Gran yelling at them to notice what just happened behind their back. When I reach Mom and Trent I see that Mom is still barely unconscious thanks to Remington body slamming her to the ground. Trent was cautiously tending to her. Celeste, where is he? Trent growled. Calm down. You can't do anything hasty. I told him. I think Mom broke a rib. He told me worriedly. Don't move her. I told him and he nods. Where's Mom's gun? I watched his eyes scanning the ground as he searched for it. We both see it feet away from Mom's open hand. She probably dropped it when Remington slammed into her and it skid across the ground. Trent grabbed it and handed it to me. What are you going to do? He asked, concerned. I took the silver bullet from my pocket and showed it to him. When he saw it he cringed. He reacted. Why the heck is that making me feel sick? He only had to look at it to feel revolted by it. I guess silver is a werewolf's kryptonite. Silver bullet kills a werewolf. I explained to him. Then get that away from me. I'm going to load this gun with it and use it to kill him. You sound sadistic. Awesome. He looks at me with admiration. I punch his shoulder. This is serious. To my agent extraordinaire, Myline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. 'Cause ever since I grew a tail, I find it hard to take things seriously. Vincent makes a weird noise which I'm guessing is him telling me to hurry up. Stay with Mom. I tell him, I will. I head back to Greyson praying that he was still in one piece. The gun is in my grasp with the bullet inside. I have no prior knowledge on how to use a gun, but I'm hoping I don't screw up the only chance we had. Celeste. Drop and roll. I hear Gran shout. Without hesitating, I do exactly just that. Without closing my eyes, I see Remington's huge body leap over me. Something brushes my side and my fingers run over a thick pelt of warm fur. Greyson shows up next to me using his body to support me up. A sudden feel of relief fluids me, and for a few seconds I allow myself to melt into his warmth. I'm glad you are okay. I whisper near his ears. He doesn't respond, but I know he is listening. His body is covered in dirt and small scratches. His body is radiating heat due to the amount of physical movement he has been exerting fighting Remington. I have a silver bullet. I tell him. His head tilts sideways to look at him, and I stare into his bright yellow eyes. He has a worried expression in his face. I will be careful with it. I tell him. What's with people thinking I am incompetent to defend my own? That kind of bothers me. Bang. Bang. Something fires and fits the ground near Greyson's feet and bounces off the dirt, making a small whirl of dust. You idiots. Gran shouts. She hits Weston across the head and does the same to the shorter guy whose name I do not yet know. You shoot my granddaughter and I will have you hanged by the nuts. Greyson growls at them in warning, then turns his attention to Remington. To our disbelief, Remington starts shifting into his human form. His fur starts to withdraw into his skin. I look at the three men and notice them still watching. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The humans. I tell him. What the heck was Remington thinking? Quick on his feet, Greyson pounces at Remington, pulls him by the neck to the shadows beneath the trees. What was that? Ricky says, confused. What was what? I didn't see anything. Grant says rather innocently, but I was going to believe an elderly lady. I swear that Wolf was changing shape for a moment. Weston says. His legs were growing longer. The nameless man says. You boys are crazy. I didn't see nothing. I hear a yelp and I run after Greyson. Vincent a step behind me. When the three men tried to follow, Vincent turned around, making them pause. Two of the men who still had their guns pointed their rifles at Vincent, who didn't shrink back in fear. Shoot that dog and I'm not afraid to shoot your rears. Gran told them. Diana. What's going on with you? You're threatening us over this wolf. That wolf is domestic and it belongs to Debbie. If you hurt it will face the wrath of her and chief of police. Leo has a particular bond with that wolf, almost like a brother. Leaving Gran and Vincent to deal with the three men, I continue my way to Greyson. When I find him, he is in his human form, choke holding Remington to the ground. His arm is wrapped around Remington's neck and pulling it backward to cut off his air. Greyson is laying on top of him with his back to me. I'm in direct sight with Greyson's backside. My face flushes with that fact. Shot. Celeste. He instructs me. What if I shoot you? You won't. Just aim and fire. I hesitate as I turn off the safety. My hands are shaking. I don't think I can do this. You can do this. He assures me, but I'm sure he is just saying that so I don't myself. Too late for that. Remington grunts and uses his full body strength to roll both of them sideways. The tables are turned when Greyson is pinned to the ground and Remington on top of him. I sequel when I think I saw something, and cover my eyes to prevent seeing that something again. I don't even know where the gun was aimed when my fingers jerked and reacted to the moment. My other hand covered my eyes. Bang. The silver bullet was fired. But to who? Chapter 35 Greyson. It happened instantly. But the second stretched into minutes as I watched Celeste close her eyes. Her finger pushed the trigger and the bullet disappeared between me and Remington. I told her to shoot, but I didn't expect her to aim accurately. With nothing left to lose, I prayed that luck would be on our side and the bullet would hit the right mark. Our Remington roared and arched above me. At the same time, Celeste screamed in horror of Remington's state of undress. I shove him off me and he rolls sideways with his front pressed to the ground. "You nearly blew off my nuts," Remington hissed between teeth and cringing on the ground. He was bleeding rather profusely from leg. Where did he come from? I look over my shoulder and see Gran followed by the three humans. They were looking at me with astonished faces, and I held back a bark that would have had them running to the hills. I stiffened at the sight of them. This was the first time seeing humans in the daylight when there was no eclipse. "He just arrived here," Gran explained. He's the cardiologist who I hired from out of state to monitor my heart problems. First it was a gardener. Next she makes up a cardiologist. What else does this old lady have in her sleeve of tricks? Celeste hesitantly walked up to me. Relief washed her features. Relieved, she wrapped her arms around my neck and cried, "I didn't kill you. Thank God." With one hand I held her, and I held her around the waist and rested my head on the curve of her shoulder. "I'm fine. We're just fine." She was in my arms, safe and in one piece. "Why are they all naked? Do all men who are employed by you work in the nude?" The human asks Gran, who simply shrugs her shoulders and isn't bothered by the fact that these men may in fact think she is running some sort of nasty business in her house basement. Another question, where did those wolves go? The shorter human asks. Would you believe me if I said the wolves in these parts like to strip men of their clothes? Gran muttered. They didn't believe her. What the hell is going on? Before you get those answers, can someone please lend him clothes? Gran asks them. The guy in plaid unbuttons his shirt. Thankfully he had another shirt beneath it, but the cloth reeked with disgusting human odor when he handed it to me. Since it was rather short, I tied the sleeves around my stomach to cover my front. Nice back view. Gran whistled. Gran. Celeste said, moving behind me to prevent anyone from taking a peek from my behind. It was still too early for us to relax. Remington remains to live, and although he just had a silver bullet penetrate through him, he was flailing about like a fish out of water. We have to kill the cardiologist, Grant says, looking at me. She was so deep into her make-believe world that this whole situation was starting to sound idiotic. You're trying to pull our legs, Diana, the human asks the little old lady. You're not seriously thinking of killing your cardiologist, right? She looks over her shoulder and faced the men with utmost seriousness. It's for the good of the people. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. With a salute, she snatches the rifle from the palms of one of the humans. The three men look mortified. You're off your rocker if you think we're just going to stand and watch you kill a person. One of the humans say. I groan. Someone please knock them out. They were a distraction that I couldn't deal with right now. I would really like to knock out Gran too, but her family might not appreciate that. My pleasure. Vincent comes up from behind them and presses his fingers into a pressure point behind two of the guys' necks. Both men faint to the ground. The one that is still awake starts screaming in horror. Get away. Oh, for the love of. Gran kicks his balls and he faints in an instant. Vincent looks at me and Celeste in what appears to be fear and moves slowly away from her, keeping safe guard of his groin. That was completely unnecessary. I tell her. Too late. She cautiously walks towards Remington with rifle at hand. Remington remains to be twisting in pain with the silver gunshot wound. Gran gams the butt of the rifle into his injured leg. So you are the little piece of crap that's been harassing my family for years. I may not have liked your son for charming my daughter out of my life and home, but she made my baby happy. The type of happiness that I wasn't capable of giving her as her mother. She jammed the butt of the rifle into Remington's wound once more, but this time it hit directly over the bullet opening. He shot up in excruciating pain. Now you dare mess with my grandbabies. She turns the rifle around and unlocks the safety. Your undead door groaning. Wait. I stop her. We need to find out what else he has done during his years in hiding. We need to know all his dirty secrets before we get rid of him. Permanently. Kill me. You're not getting anything from me. Remington spat. You heard him. Gran pulled the trigger and it fires into his other leg. The pain must have been unbearable because he becomes unconscious. Celeste. Trent was in his wolf form, carrying his mother on his back. Mom. Celeste runs to her mother along with Gran. Gran inspects her daughter. I can't believe you. I can't believe all this. She gestures to the air. Who knew you were as reckless as me? You fall in love with a dog, werewolf. Vincent and I say in unison. Whatever, you have hybrid kids with him. Your daughter ends up becoming the legendary beast bride. Your dog lover's killer psych, a perfect father tries to kill you and the kids. This is going to be a new part of the legend. I can't wait to tell my great-grandchildren. She stares off at me and Celeste as if the bun was already in the oven. I wish. Celeste's face heats up at what her grandmother was implying. She's too young to have children. Tracy mutters, glaring at me as if daring me to break that rule. What are you going to do with him? Celeste asks me. Her strength was what was holding me upright. I leaned on her, finally being able to relax. My bride was at my side willingly with her family by her side. It looks like we both got what we wanted. My dad will deal with him. We'll lock him in the dungeon and get some answers from him. I tell them, Vincent, have the pack to give those humans a small dose of hallucinogens. Just enough to make them think they had gotten lost in the forest and lost their minds from starvation. As a nurse, I completely do not agree with that idea. Tracy mutters. It's by that. Or they're going to tell the whole town I employ nudists in my house. Grant smirks. Trent's wolf groans and turns his large head to his mother as if saying, don't let her ruin our good name. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Do we have to go back to the pack house? Can't we live in the town like all the other wolves in your pack? Vincent, Leo. They are able to live outside the sanctuary. Celeste asks me. She looks at her family hopeful. I knew why she was asking. She didn't want to be separated from them. When we returned to the house, she wouldn't be able to leave, or see anyone outside unless they come visit her. Imagining her caged inside and forced to remain in the house with me made me feel like the type of monster that the legend portrays. I didn't want to sadden her. I'll talk to my father. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Vincent looked at me shocked. But Greyson, none of our alphas have lived outside the protection line. Don't you think it's time for us not to hide anymore? What kind of alpha hides? I don't understand why my ancestors made that rule, but from here on out we need to make changes. I tell him, what gives you that authority, son? Dad appeared from behind us with a scowl on his face. As future alpha, I would like to process that new order. I face my father. You have to discuss this with the pack. Many of our elderly would not be pleased by that change. They are very traditional, conservative. Changes are made to better the pack. If we stay as we are, others will surpass us. Who knows, they could have already. Dad narrowed his eyes at me and glanced at everyone listening. We will talk about this later. Right now we need to get the wounded back to the house for care. He looked at Remington on the floor. As for him, be careful in his handling. We need to get him locked up. Torture him for answers if we have to, and end him once we get the info we need. Vincent nodded with the command. How's my brother? Restless. He's severely injured, but is in stable condition. Relief washed in all our faces. Let's get out of here before other humans find us. I tell them. 2 days later, Celeste and I are resting in my bedroom. I had bandages all over my body that I nearly looked like a mummy. Go to sleep, Greyson. Celeste scolded me. I couldn't sit still. My wolf was still feeling defensive. After over a week of action, my adrenaline was still high. Celeste's fingers twirled the small strand of hair dangling over my forehead around her finger. I grabbed her finger and placed the back of her hand to my cheek, loving how her hand warmed my skin. I want you to stay with me forever, I tell her. She chuckles. You think I have another choice? I tug her hand, making her fall a little closer to my face. You always have a choice. I just can't live without you. Wherever you go, I will follow you, woman. Her gaze softens. I don't think I can live without you either. She leans down, staring at my lips. Finally. She intends to kiss me. Both me and my wolf are jumping for joy. And then, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Two brats charge into my room. Liam and Caleb split different directions and leap into my body, jump up and down. I haven't seen these two in days, and I sure haven't missed them. Grey, grey, grey. You're not dead. They sing happily, as they bounce around my wound's ache. Boys, boys, get off the bed. Celeste scolds them. Your brother is hurt. The two brats jump off and then run to tackle my girl to the ground. Celeste, you're back. Liam grins. You're back. Caleb repeats. What did Mum feed you? I ask them. They were so freaking hyper it was abnormal. We kept asking Charlotte for candy. Liam said with an evil grin on her face. I groan. Looks like I have to reinforce the house rules now that we have no members. Rule 1, don't give the twins sweets. There was a knock at the door. You're awake. Leo came limping in. Glad to see you with all your limbs. Why is everyone deciding to visit me now? I complain. Celeste giggles and leans down to whisper in my ear. Don't worry, we have all eternity. I smile at her. Leo clears his throat. Your mom wanted me to tell you that she is planning your wedding. It highly overdue her words exactly. Both Celeste and I groan. Can't all that wait until we have all gotten over the last few days? Talk to your parents. They want you to be married by the end of this week. My mom won't agree to that. Celeste says. Actually, she did. Leo said, surprising us. What? Celeste says, flabbergasted. Alpha Bennett convinced her. According to him, a couple that sleeps in the same room. Don't even finish that. I tell him. Leo smirks. I'm just relaying a message. We haven't done anything. Celeste says. Her face red as a tomato. Rules are rules. Just warning you two. Leo raises his hands in defense. I hate your rules. Celeste mutters. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Remington was eliminated this morning. Leo informs me. We all grow silent at that. Did they get information from him? Not much. But before he took his last breath he said, he lives. Whatever that means, we are trying to find out. Even in death he still has us running in circles. Afterwards I never thought about getting married. I never pictured myself a bride wearing a white princess dress standing in front of the altar, with hundreds of people watching. So when Greyson told me our wedding would be a small private ceremony in his backyard, I didn't freak out like my mom and Charlotte did. You literally married a dog, Charlotte seethed between clenched teeth. As your sister and maid, of honor, I can't let this happen. The backyard. Who the hell would want their wedding surrounded by giant trees? There's no scenery, no magic, no romance. Sighing, I grab both her shoulders and look her directly in the eyes to stop her talking. Charlotte, it's not your wedding. She looked at me with irritation and groaned. I know, but if you won't do anything to make it special, then I will. I shake her, hoping she would listen. Charlotte, it is special. I'm marrying the man I love. That's special enough for me. Besides, isn't marrying a werewolf unique enough? No one else can say they married the future alpha. She pressed her lips together as if trying to hold back what she wanted to say. Leave it alone. Greyson said he would take care of everything. I told her. He won't even let me see his arrangements. Greyson has people guarding the back doors. Have you seen their backyard? I nodded my head. Yeah, it's a rather large space considering that was Pac-Man train. It's practically the size of a basketball court. Perfect for a small wedding. Is he going to at least put decorations up? I shrug. Not sure. I told you already I don't have any details. It was like her eyes were going to budge out of their sockets. Your wedding dress. Did you get to pick it out? You know what? I haven't even picked one yet. I chuckled. It was kind of hard to go to the mall when you're not permitted to leave the territory. That was something I still needed to get used to. I wasn't particularly found with the idea of it the rest of my life. Are you insane? You're getting married in 3 days and you don't dress yet. She was literally pulling the roots of her hair. The more Charlotte yelled, the more she reminded me of our mother. I'm sure Greyson has that planned out too. You're going to let a man handle your wardrobe. She yelled at me. Charlotte, please, stop screaming. Calm down. Her hands fisted. I'm going to talk to Greyson right now. She pivoted and slammed the door on her way out. Charlotte. I ran after her. She headed up the stairs to Greyson's study and walked in on him having a meeting. Bennett sat on the edge of the table looking over his shoulder at Greyson, who was sitting on his office chair. Vincent had his arms crossed over his chest as he leaned on the wall. When he saw Charlotte storming, he immediately straightened and prepared himself for her wrath. Leo was there also, still bandaged, but now able to walk around without pain. He stood next to Greyson with his hands over his hips, brows pulled together in concentration. When he saw Charlotte, he glared over at his little brother as if saying, "Deal with her." "Can we help you?" Greyson addressed Charlotte. She marched closer to his desk and slammed her palm on the surface of the wood. Bennett didn't want to be near her line of fire. "Looks like we are down here. I'll see you all later." He mock saluted his son. When he saw me, his face brightened with a warm grin. "Celeste." He leaned down and pressed his lips on my temple. It was a fatherly gesture he would oftentimes give to Lexi and now me dad. I blushed at the nickname he wanted me to call him. His chin widened to a large smile. Then he patted my back before exciting the room. "We need to talk," Charlotte said to Greyson. "So it seems." Greyson clasped his hands together and rested his elbows on the table. He looked over her shoulder at me with a question look. "What's this about?" Vincent hovered next to her. "Charlotte, now is not, don't butt in." She snapped at him and Vincent muted in command. He was still trying to earn her good graces after he accidentally marked her. Leo rolled his eyes at him, but remained silent. "I want details about the wedding. I want my sister to have an amazing wedding. She deserves the best." "And I agree." Greyson interjected. Charlotte continued to ramble. "There has 2 flowers, fairy lights, a 4-tower cake. She needs a veil, a bouquet. Do you have rings?" Greyson lifted his hand. Charlotte stopped. He turned his head to Leo. The two had some sort of mental communication because Leo nodded his head and went to get something from the bookshelf. Leo placed a bind on the table between Charlotte and Greyson. Charlotte watched silently as Greyson turned the binder and opened the cover. Charlotte flipped through the pages. Right when I took a step to see what they were looking at, Vincent blocked my view with his broad back. "What is that?" I asked, more to myself. When I finally was able to stand close enough to see the binder, Charlotte flipped it shut like a Venus flytrap catching its prey. She turned around with a satisfied look on her face. She snapped her arm around mine and began to pull me along with her. "You're right, he's got it covered. Let's go." If what Charlotte saw in that binder was able to placate her grievances, then Greyson must have had something interesting planned. It was my turn to be curious. Shimming out of her grip, I looked at my husband-to-be. Mind sharing a little bit of those details with me? A wicked smile formed on his face. Testing me. Teasing me. Not a chance. Not even one small detail. "You will find out in 3 days," he said, and Charlotte, the little traitor, ushered me out of his office. "You are going to love it," she assured me. "I know I did," she squealed. For the next 3 days until the wedding, she continued to giggle over time she passed me as if he held a dirty little secret that only she knew. That night to nights before wedding, Gran was the only one who returned to her house because according to her she couldn't stand the nightly howling. The rest of my small family moved into Greyson's home and had their own living quarters in the guest wing. Greyson and I weren't permitted to share a room. Upon Mother's request, and like a true gentleman, he complied to my mom's wishes without compliment, much to my astonishment. I thought maybe he would put up a fight. Staring at the bedroom ceiling, I wondered whether Greyson was awake in his room. No matter what I tried, I just couldn't fall asleep. Charlotte slept like the dead next to me on our queen-sized bed. She was offered a room to herself, but she refused to leave my side. Mom slept in the room next door, but Trent was placed in a different section of the house because he was still a new wolf being monitored. He seemed to be doing better controlling his strength and temper. Just the other day, Charlotte and him had a meaningless argument about groceries. Mom, Charlotte, and Leo were going to take a trip back to town to help stock food inventory. Mom wanted to join Leo and the other pack members for the excursion because she wanted to personally pay for our family's portion of the bill. Bennett had told her that necessary purchases for the pack, like food and medical supplies, are paid for by a private saving account and she didn't need to pay with her personal cash. Mom refused to accept the free accommodations. My mind was working like clockwork. My thoughts wouldn't stop and I wasn't going to sleep anytime soon. Slowly, I got up and tiptoed out the room. The only light in the hallway was coming from 2 windows. As I walked across the hardwood floors, I brushed my fingers across the wall. It smelled like the forest in this house. Each room had a distinct smell. Greyson's room smelt like frosted trees, mint leaf, and cedarwood. The guest room was shared with Charlotte smelt like vanilla and jasmine due to Charlotte's lotions. Part of her smell had rubbed off on me. I missed Greyson's room. It felt comfortable, and in the past few weeks, it felt like home. With no destination to go, I wandered around the house just listening to the darkness. I was as quiet as a mouse. Smiling to myself, I pretended to be a stealthy wolf walking across the forest searching for her prey. What was it like to be a wolf? I wondered. Wolves had an amazing sense of smell and hearing. Did that mean if someone was awake right now, they would hear me if I passed by their room? I wonder if Greyson was awake. Where was his room again? This house is too big. While thinking about whether I should walk by Greyson's room, I tiptoed downstairs. I decided to go to the kitchen to get a glass of water. I didn't bother putting the light on because I was afraid that someone would wake up and see me walking around the kitchen. I got glass from the cabinet and headed to the fridge to get the pitcher. Suddenly, out of nowhere, my thigh brushes against something silky. I almost dropped the glass in my hand. The crash would have surely woke the whole house up. Then something that felt like a feather duster lightly hits the back of both my thighs. My left palm covers my mouth before I yelp. I turn around and slowly walk backwards. My back collides with the wall and I have nowhere else to go. Then to my horror, something or someone licks my knee. My teeth grind together as I stop myself from screaming like a band's HIE. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That better be you. I hiss between teeth. One pointed to glowing dots, like fireflies. Déjà vu, his massive canine body rubbed against my skin, and I was pressed against the wall. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. This is uncomfortable. I tried to nudge him away with my arm. I hear what sounded like a wolf chuckle. He put some space between us. Then 7 minutes later I feel him hovering near me in his full height, human and asked as a newborn baby. Please tell me you aren't walking around your house naked. Greyson smirks. Give me a second. I toss my clothes somewhere in the floor. It was a good thing it was too dark to see anything. You know, I heard you walking through the halls. I groaned mentally. Everyone with super canine hearing could probably hear me too. What were you doing? I should ask you that. I walk inch by inch, worried I'd collide with him in the dark. I couldn't sleep. Same. What's on your mind? What's on your mind? I asked back. I asked first. He said cock-ily. A lot of things. Mostly what awaits us after we get married. Greyson doesn't say anything. He was probably processing what I just said. Celeste, he says softly. He grabs both my wrists and I'm surprised that he was able to see me. Then I remembered he had night vision abilities. His hands slide higher until his palms spread across my back. I'm pressed closer to him. My lips are pressed into his collarbone. He's wearing a cotton tee, shirt that smells like laundry detergent, but he also has his smell on him. I'm a little anxious. I tell him. He starts to sway back and forth. The movements lull me to close my eyes and hug him back. I understand how you feel. You do. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He hugs me tighter and his lips brushes the side of my temple. I turn my head to rest my cheek on his chest. I don't know what's going to happen and I'm scared about what's going to happen to us. His fingers start playing with strands of my hair. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. I'll be very gentle and I assure you that you're going to experience no pain at all. Wait, what? What are you talking about? I push him away and out and breaks. He hesitates. You meant the wedding night, right? My face heats up and my heart pounds harder. Oh my God. I don't know whether I should be embarrassed or shocked. I was talking about all this. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You becoming alpha, me dictating by your side. What Remington said, how my family is adjusting to our new life in this small little town. There's a lot of things making my head spin. That is the last thing on my mind. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Since he mentioned it, it was now the top on my list of thoughts. Oh, awkward silence. If we had our wedding night here, wouldn't everyone hear us? Why did I just ask that? My face gets hotter and I feel like I'm sweating through my clothes. They probably heard you say that now. He whispered, though it was no point in doing so really. Someone kill me. On the bright side, my sister and Mom couldn't hear. But then Trent. I hope to God he still sleeps like a log. He would torment me if he heard this. Let's have this discussion another time. Greyson said. You know I have feelings for you. My voice was soft when I said it, but I know he could hear. You mean? I love you. You've said it before. Don't sugarcoat it. Once again he has me wrapped into his arms, and I melt into his embrace. I try again. Love you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And when I thought I would never see you again, I felt so crushed. When Remington said he wanted to kill you, I felt so angry. I never thought I could care for someone other than my family so deeply that it kind of shocked me. He touched my cheek and his thumb rubbed back and forth on my cheekbone. When I took you that night, my intention was to steal a bride. I never expected to feel such a pull towards you. It was like my wolf knew exactly where to go once you were within his line of scent. He pressed his nose into my hair. You smelled so tantalizing. I felt drunk on you and I didn't even know you. When I climbed into your room, I teased you a bit. I recalled him brushing his wet nose on my leg. I believe he licked me. Just like what he did earlier. I smacked him playfully. I can't believe you licked me. I laughed. He leaned down and kissed my cheek before the tip of his tongue poked my skin. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I squealed, making him laugh. When I recoiled to avoid his second kiss, my hips pressed closer to his and our legs tangled together. I never thought one woman could wrap me so tightly around her little finger. I would do anything for you, Celeste. I'm at your mercy. His words melted my heart. I wasn't very much used to such affection, but with Greyson it was something I was learning to love. My stomach tickles when he tells me how much he cherishes me. I feel like I don't want to be separated from this man. I'm not your wife yet. I point out. A few days doesn't make a difference. You are mine. His lips press into mine. The kiss was hard and demanding, probing and encouraging at the same time. Greyson took control, moving my arms around his neck before placing one hand around my back and the other cradling my head. I didn't know if I was breathing or not. My head started spinning. Breathe, Celeste, he said between our kisses. I grunted in response. Then finally he stopped and rested our foreheads together. Both of us panting. You need to practice. I'll be an awesome teacher, he joked. I jabbed him with my finger on the stomach, which was hard as stone. Shut up. You didn't say it back yet. What? The 3 words. Please and thank you. Very funny. But that's for. I giggle, and he adds another quick-chased kiss on my lips. I love you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That's for. I point out. So what is the 3 words you're looking for? How about? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Marry me. Aren't we already? I ask him. We sure are. But what? He totally was going off on a tangent and I didn't know where he was going with this. I want you to ask me to marry you. I look at him like he's crazy and I was sure he could see the look on my face. He laughs at my expression. Traditionally, the man asks the woman to marry him, but I took you against your will. You kidnapped me. I corrected him. I took you with good intentions. I roll my eyes. What intention would that be? To seduce you? He whispers near my ear and it tickles my cheek. To make you learn to love a man like me, despite my flaws. To show you that you have a strong spirit. Despite any tough situation, you always pull through. You're a fighter, Celeste, and only I am the guy capable of being yours truly. He sounded like some Romeo wannabe. You are so corny. I groan, half embarrassed by his antiques. Okay, fine, you're right. Oh, stop. But in all seriousness, I want you to marry me without feeling like it's an obligation to wed me. We both know that we are being forced into this in 3 days. As much as I love you, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable commuting to spending all eternity with me. A wedding is too soon, I say, and he waits for me to continue. However, I know with all certainty that I never want to leave your side. It's better to get the wedding over with. I know I'm going to want to be with you. I can't even sleep without you nearby. He hugs me again. Glad I'm not the only one. If you really want me to say, Greyson, will you marry me? It was so odd saying it. He laughs. That's 5 words. But my answer is yes. He lowers his lips to mine again and we savor each other. Hands rolling, legs intertwined and bodies pressed, so tightly together we looked molded together. Looks like you're mine for the taking. I smile against his lips. The beast stole his bride and she gave him her heart forever. Don't let the story end. Subscribe to continue our Wolf Pack legend.